10 years ago, my wife was brutally murdered. The police closed the case. I gave up. But that night, an anonymous letter led me to a place no one dares to mention: East Haven Asylum. I thought I'd find the truth, but no. I walked into a courtroom in hell, where justice had no judge, only the dead, and their final verdict. My name is Ethan Cole, once a well-known defense attorney in this city, until my world collapsed. 10 years ago, my wife, Emily, a sharp investigative journalist, died under suspicious circumstances in our small apartment. The police ruled it a failed robbery. The suspect, a drug addict, died of an overdose 2 days later. The case was quickly closed, but deep down, I knew something was terribly wrong. I tried to investigate, but every lead vanished. Emily's name faded from the headlines. The files she'd gathered disappeared. Her sources missing or silent. Eventually, I gave up. I returned to work, wearing my calm demeanor like armor. But every night, I dreamed of her, standing at the end of a long hallway, back turned, disappearing into the fog. On the 10th anniversary of her death, I went back to our old apartment, not to find answers, but just to sit, to remember where it all began. Everything was coated in dust, untouched for a decade, except one thing: a letter, placed neatly on the coffee table. No cinder, no address. Just one line: want to know who killed her? 3 a.m., East Haven Psychiatric Hospital. Come alone. I stared at the letter, heart pounding. In the pale yellow light, the handwriting looked familiar. It was Emily's, or someone who mimicked it eerily well. I almost threw it away. But then, opening the drawer where she used to hide personal things, I found an old, blurry photograph. Emily stood in front of a rusted metal door. Above it, the number 306. I had never seen that photo before, and I knew for certain she had stopped taking photos years ago. So how did this exist? I froze. Memories I had buried jolted back to life. I glanced at the clock. 10:17 p.m. Less than 5 hours left. I sat in the dark, clutching the letter. The photo lay beneath a glass of whiskey, the ice slowly melting. I don't believe in ghosts, but I believe in truth, and the truth was calling me back to the one place I feared most: my past. I stood, grabbed my keys, left the apartment, and drove east, toward a darkness that lived not only in an abandoned building, but deep within my own conscience. I reached East Haven Asylum at 2:45 a.m. The road leading there was swallowed by a forest of skeletal trees, bare limbs scratching against the night like dead fingers. A dense fog blanketed everything. I had to slow the car to a crawl. The building emerged like a rotting monument, a massive concrete shell, long forgotten. The rusted iron gate creaked open with a shriek as I pushed it. From the moment I crossed the threshold, I felt eyes on me. I looked up. Only broken windows and a suffocating darkness stared back. My phone had lost signal as soon as I turned onto the access road. I turned on my flashlight. The beam cut a pale arc through the mold-stained walls and decaying graffiti. The lobby was filled with overturned chairs, rusted gurneys, and a decayed propaganda poster that clung to one wall, barely readable. Mental illness isn't the enemy. Stigma is. I scoffed. No one cared anymore. I walked slowly down the main corridor. My flashlight flickered. Every step echoed like footsteps doubled. I wasn't alone, or at least it didn't feel like I was. Most of the doors lining the hall were chained or nailed shut. Some had hazard warnings. Still, I felt pulled forward like something was waiting. At the third turn, I stopped. From the floor above came a sound, the dragging of feet. Slow, deliberate. Scrape, shuffle, scrape. I looked up. Nothing. Just darkness. And then, my flashlight cut out. In that exact moment, a breath, cold, damp, brushed the back of my neck. I didn't scream. I didn't turn. I simply pulled out a lighter and lit a scrap of paper, a trick from law school days meant to calm panic. The flame danced in front of me and reflected something in the broken glass ahead. A face, hollow, eyeless, behind me. I spun around. Nothing. But the door in front of me, marked 306, creaked open slowly. No wind. No person. And no reason for it to be waiting. Crossing the threshold of room 306 felt like entering a vacuum. Airless, silent, waiting. The stench inside was heavy with mildew and something iron sweet. Blood, maybe. My flashlight flickered back to life, just enough to reveal rows of rusted metal bed frames, torn privacy curtains dangling like wilted ghosts. Each step I took echoed twice, as if someone walked beside me in perfect sync. I whipped around. No one. But the glass shard on the floor caught something. A shadow that wasn't mine. A low, wet whisper brushed my ear. She called for you. You didn't come. A shiver crawled down my spine. I turned my light toward the wall and saw words appearing in dripping red. You left her. My knees weakened. I stumbled back, and the light died again. I stood in pitch black, heart thundering, breath caught. Then, a flicker above, a soft glow from the ceiling. Shapes emerged, dozens of human figures, but not alive. They had no faces. Their bodies were scorched, limbs twisted, eyes sewn shut. Each stepped forward in silence, raising their arms, touching me, shoulder, chest, spine, light as mist. And with each touch, a memory crashed into me. A teenage boy I refused to defend because his case was unwinnable. A woman whose report I ignored because she couldn't afford my fee. A mother whose plea for help I brushed aside as paranoia. The next day, her daughter went missing. I collapsed to the floor, choking. tears streamed down without warning. The shame was unbearable. Not because I had done something terrible, but because I had done nothing. The figures encircled me, wordless. The same low whisper echoed all around. "Do you see us now?" Then, a sharp knock. 3 times. Knock, knock, knock. A door at the far end of the hallway creaked open. A room lit in soft, golden light beckoned. In the center, a cassette recorder on the floor, a red envelope beneath it. I stood. My hands trembled. My legs barely obeyed. I walked toward the light and closed the final door behind me. The air inside the golden-lit room was cold, but still. I stepped forward slowly, my eyes on the cassette recorder and the red envelope beneath it. The recorder looked like it hadn't been touched in years, yet the red envelope was pristine, a jarring detail in such decay. I knelt and picked up the envelope first. On the front, in neat, unmistakable handwriting, "Play me." It was Emily's handwriting, no doubt. My fingers fumbled as I pressed play. The tape clicked and hissed. Then her voice filled the room. "If you're hearing this, I'm gone. You found room 306, so you know I was here. You know I got close. Closer than they wanted. But maybe you didn't know how far they'd go to keep me quiet." My chest tightened. Her voice was calm, but I could hear it. That edge. That fear she always masked. I found the files. Names. Transactions. A network of people trafficking the vulnerable. Hidden in plain sight. In hospitals, in shelters, in boardrooms. I have everything stored. Video, photos, signed statements. But I can't trust anyone. I thought I could bring this to light, but they're watching. The voice paused. So I hid it. All of it. In a USB drive. It's in the small steel box under the floorboard beneath this tape recorder. If you found this, you can still finish what I couldn't. You're the only one left who can. My vision blurred. I slid the recorder aside and pried up a loose board beneath it. Sure enough, a small steel box lay wedged in the hollow. Inside, wrapped in foil, a black USB stick. I held it like it might vanish. Everything she died for was in my hand. Then, 3 knocks. Louder this time, directly behind me. I turned. The door I had just closed was gone. In its place stood a wide chamber, glowing with pale white light. The faceless figures returned. They filled the space without sound, encircling me, watching. One stepped forward, reaching out, not to harm, but to summon. I stepped into the chamber, and the walls sealed shut behind me. The chamber swallowed sound. I stood in the center, surrounded by a sea of faceless figures, seated in silence, as though awaiting a verdict. The light above dimmed, turning the air cold and metallic. Then a voice echoed, not from a person, but from everywhere at once. Deep, unfamiliar, unforgiving. Ethan Cole, defense attorney, advocate of reason, practitioner of silence. You stand before those you left behind. A spotlight beamed down, isolating me. You once claimed justice was a matter of law, not belief. That neutrality was virtue. But tonight, the dead call for reckoning. A figure rose in front of me, charred, eyeless, mouth sewn shut. Another stepped forward, a mother with empty arms, her face frozen in a scream. More came, all victims of cases I had declined, evidence I had ignored, people I deemed not worth the fight. Each accusation wasn't spoken. It was felt, a surge of guilt, shame, the weight of lives lost not by action, but by omission. Then came Emily's voice, not from the tape, from the crowd itself. I didn't die because you failed me. I died because you stopped believing in anything. I collapsed to my knees. I'm sorry, I whispered. But the voice responded, then do something. Not for me, for them. The figures began to rise, not to attack, but to surround me. Their arms lifted together, as if granting permission. The light above shattered, and I was falling. I awoke lying on damp grass. Dawn was breaking, gray light filtering through a wall of fog. My clothes were soaked. My hands were dirty, but clutched tightly in my palm. The USB drive. It wasn't a dream. It never was. I staggered to my feet. My car was still parked near the asylum gate, rusted and silent as if it had been waiting centuries. I didn't look back. I drove, not to my apartment, but to the one place I knew would matter. The newsroom of the Tribune, where Emily had once worked. The journalist on night shift, a young man with bloodshot eyes and 3 cups of coffee at his desk, didn't question me. He saw the drive, saw my face, and simply nodded. We'll vet it. If it's real, we'll run it. It was real. The data exposed a web of human trafficking, high-level corruption, bribed officials, and hidden victims, all protected by silence, fear, and power. And yet, every piece was sourced, time-stamped, undeniable. Within 48 hours, the story was everywhere. They called it the Emily Files. Arrests followed, protests, investigations. People lost jobs, others fled. Some were finally found. Her death was no longer a headline buried in archive. It was justice rising from the grave. 1 week later, I returned to East Haven, not to investigate, not to challenge ghosts, just to say goodbye. The gates were closed now, vines creeping through their bars. I left a single white lily on the step, Emily's favorite. The wind stirred, brushing my collar like a hand. For the first time in a decade, I felt light. And as I turned to leave, I saw her, a pale figure in the broken window above, watching. Not waiting, smiling, then gone. I smiled back. Not because I saw a ghost, but because I knew she forgave me. Time passed. News cycles changed. New scandals took over. But the Emily Files remained, a permanent scar on the city's conscience. Books were written. A documentary followed. Her name became a symbol, not of tragedy, but of truth. As for me, I left the courtroom behind. I volunteered, helping victims navigate the justice system, teaching young law students what real justice looked like. Not rules, not loopholes, but courage. Some nights, I still dreamed of East Haven, of the hallway, the figures, the chamber of judgment. But there was no fear in those dreams anymore. Only memory, and maybe a voice. You opened the right door. The final one. Not in the asylum, but in me. Justice never dies. It only waits for someone brave enough to speak its name.